Good morning, all. It is actually 11:47 a.m., and today I want to talk a little bit about mansions of the moon. I happen to be in a moon-ruled year this year, and as a result, I'm doing a lot of moon work to try to stabilize my life because otherwise my life has a tendency to change every 2 or 3 days as the moon changes signs. And as a result, I have been making little Moon Mansion Talismans on the process of making what you may have seen as described as a Victorian puzzle purse. And I'm going to go through that process today, but in order to do that, I have to switch camera angles and not turn the camera off. That would help. Thanks to a Patreon member who went on my Amazon list, I have access to this little camera, which points at my desktop rather than at the ground or at me. And I thought I had this set up correctly, but figuring this stuff out is always a bit of a challenge, isn't it? That'll do. What I have here is an 8.5 by 8.5 inch square of paper, but I think that any square will do as long as you can use a ruler to mark it and divide it in thirds. Since this is 8.5, dividing it in thirds works out to be about 2 inches and 3/4 of an inch, and then another 16th beyond that, approximately. So 1, 2, and 3/4 and a little bit more is there. And what I'm going to do is start out my Moon Mansion talisman for today's Moon Mansion by folding this sheet of paper into thirds in one direction and then into thirds in the other direction. And you'll notice, based on where the crease ended, that it is not, in fact, a perfect thirds arrangement. I'm going to have to work on that, but it's a Moon Mansion talisman, and I'm not going to worry about it too much. I might think about cutting this into 6 by 6 squares for the future so that I don't have to worry quite so much about getting it exactly right. So I folded it in thirds in one direction, and now I'm going to fold it in thirds in another direction, at right angles, because I've started out with a square. And you may recall that a 3 by 3 grid is the grid of Saturn. Let me see if I can hoist this up a little bit more. So 3 by 3. Now, I have found that it's helpful to have everything folded only in one right direction. So you'll see that in this particular case, I've done what's known as a valley fold across the lower left square of my 3 by 3 block. And I'm going to do that for each corner. If you have a bone folder, which is the traditional tool for paper folding, you can use that. But now I have two mountain folds along the bottom and one square that doesn't have a fold in it yet. I want the fold for this square in the middle of the bottom line to go in the opposite direction from the other two. So I have two folds that go from the corner of the inner square to the corner of the outer square, the edge of the paper, and then one going in the opposite direction. Let me see. Yeah, I don't actually have blur my background on. It's just the quality of the camera. So then I'm going to go to the opposite top edge of my square paper. Thinking about it as having a top edge and a bottom edge is a little bit misleading because it's a square. So I've got valley folds from the center square corners all the way out to the corners of the edge of the paper, and those are done on both the top and the bottom. So really, what I have is a kind of bowl, or I'm starting to have a bowl or a square pocket like this. And just as I folded the bottom side in the opposite direction from main fold, uh, corner to corner, I want to do each of the middle squares on the edges, something like that. So this is the only one that I haven't done yet. And remember that this fold is a valley fold, but it goes in the opposite direction from the folds that go from the corners of the inner square out to the outer edges. Now we're sort of set. And this is the part that always gives me the heebie-jeebies. But it's also worth noting that you can also achieve these folds by folding the outside corner to the inner corner opposite it of the central square. So outer, inner, outer to inner, outer to inner, outer to inner. So we've got something like that where the central square isn't really creased at all, but all of the outer squares are creased in at least one, if not two directions. The squares in the middle of each side are X'd with folds, and the squares on the outer corners, these out here, are only folded in one direction. And then this is where things have a tendency to go sideways, and it took me a little time to figure out how to do this fold, and it means taking some of your mountain folds and turning them into valley folds as you go. And I do see that the camera is not being very helpful here. But if all goes well, and it rarely does the first time that I try this fold, you're going to wind up with something that looks like this pinhole or pinwheel. There's going to be four flaps in the middle. There's going to be four points going out to the edges. And when you pull, it sort of unfolds and reveals the full 4x4 square, and it goes back together again, something like that. And then these leaves in a Victorian puzzle purse fold in on themselves in a clockwise direction, and then the last fold counterclockwise direction, and then the last fold goes in like that. So you have a flat surface on one side, and you have a folded surface on the other. So how do I use these for Moon Mansion talismans? This is where things start to get tricky, because what we have is quite a lot of decorative surfaces. And for this, I'm going to use a number 10 micron pen in black. And I take the flat unfolded side that has no breaks in it, and I draw a black line all the way around the edge. And then I'm going to come in a little ways and draw a second black line. And then I'm going to come in even less than I did the first time. And draw a third black line like that. I'm going to then flip it over. And I'm going to use the folds of the triangle to make four triangular shapes like this. So I have a box inside of a box inside of a box on one side. And on the other side, I have four triangles around that central pinhole. Now, I don't plan on using this as a mansion talisman because I'm showing you how to make one, not how to um, consecrate one or how to draw a specific one. I'll do that in a separate video. And for this, I'm simply going to write Mansion 29 because there is no 29th mansion of the moon. But essentially, I put the mansion number on one side of that middle square, and then I put um, Al Pastore, the pastor or the shepherd, uh, on one side. In other words, I would write the mansion name in this location, and then the English title of it, which in this case is the shepherd. And then I would put the name of the angel And Agnes is the Latin word for lamb, so I'm going to make this Agnasiel, um, which is a fake shepherd, right? This is not a real talisman. This is just sort of showing you how I would go about placing these different pieces, right? And then I'm going to come over to the other side, and let's say that the stars that are, or the stars that are associated with the non-existent 29th mansion are um, Venus and Mercury and Mars and Jupiter. So I'm going to draw those in the corners of um, the triangles around that central point. And the 29th mansion would be the last mansion and sort of the end of the cycle and the beginning of another cycle. So I'm going to put, um, I don't know, for good food. And so I'm listing out some of the meanings of the talisman for good food, for good water, for safety and security, for, and then for protection from gossip. So I'm listing four purposes for this talisman all at the same time. I'm then going to shift down to a different marker. This is a micron 01, so it's a much finer point. And in this particular case, the shepherd's name is Agnasiel. So I'm going to open up my talisman again like this. And I'm going to see, okay, safety and security is the name of the tag that's here. So on this piece of the tag, I'm going to write, and I'm going to write, I don't know if you can read that or not. I can't read it on the camera. It says, Agnasiel, protect me from officials acting under color of law. So this is a talisman for protection against, there we go. This is talisman for acquiring protection against officials who are acting in ways that are inappropriate. And then I'm going to go to for good food. And it says, Agnasiel, protect me from chefs serving me dishes past their prime. And then I'm going to go for protection from gossip, and I'm going to go Agnasiel, protect me. Just a moment. So I have big statements that will appear on the outside of the letter about what uh, what the qualities are that I'm looking for, and then the other end of the flag has has a prayer to the angel, extemporaneous, if you will. And then I'm going to come on to the inside. So all of this is on the outside. All of this is now on the inside. And I'm going to pick up my wide 10 marker again. And I'm going to draw four triangles on these pinwheel pieces, on the inside edge of these pinwheels. And you'll notice that I'm not using a ruler. I'm not making a deliberate effort to get these all exactly perfectly right. And the when I wrote these, using the 10 was a little bit too powerful, too thick. So I'm going to shift down to an 8, and I'm going to write some of the keywords that are associated with the text. And a lot of the keywords that I use come out of Christopher Warnock's book, The Mansions of the Moon. And since I'm making this one up, it doesn't really matter because this isn't an appropriate thing, but and so one of the words that I might choose for the shepherd is attentiveness, and another one might be protection. And another one might be um, security, and another one might be refuge. And then I'm even going to go down further. This is a Prismacolor 5, and I would write the name of the mansion again. Um, 0. And so one of these pinwheels is going to get the name of the mansion again, and in English and in a transliterated Arabic, and also its coordinates on the zodiac. And here, because this is a fake talisman, I'm using 0 Ophiuchus to 1251 Ophiuchus. And then on the second tab, I'm going to write my location. You obviously would not write the word location. You would write your location. And I usually do that as both latitude and longitude. I will note down the name of the town, the fact that I'm in Massachusetts, the fact that I am in this specific place, and here is my latitude and longitude by degree, minute, and second. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to name the indicator star. And the indicator star is usually something like Regulus um, or Zubin Eluakbi, which was the one of the ones from yesterday, or Spica, or some other prominent star that happens to be either just ahead of the mansion name, um, or around it, or within it. And then on the third one, I'm going to go date, time. Yeah, date and time and sun coordinate and ascendant, because those things can be used to correctly identify the chart of, and they're sort of a way of shorthanding the chart. Because if you know the moon's location and you know the sun's location and you know the ascendant's location, you know, and the place, you know where that chart is within about 4 minutes of accuracy. So then watch what happens. When I pull open the paper, all of this stuff, the prayers are in the corners, the this central logo is in the middle here, um, and all of the information about what makes this talisman work are here. And then I can come over to the inside, and as you probably know, I have written a number of astrologically themed poems. And my handwriting is such, with a fine point marker like a 02 or a 01. And those poems are written in such a way that they will fit within this box. which means that I have this space for either doing nothing with or for keying it to a specific person. Or I can decorate it. And then I have these two triangles, and these are also good areas for keying the piece to a specific person. So the poem is going to go in this big box down the middle, and then these two corners at the top and bottom can be used to key to a specific person, and then these sections can be for specific petitions. Or they can be left blank. Something like that. So then, oh, and on the front side, you also have these four squares, the middles of the outer sides, that you can also use for decoration either by squares or by triangles. So then I'm going to fold my talisman back up. I'm going to fold down all of my tabs and tuck everything together. And then I'm going to make sure that the place where it says Mansion 29 in this case is facing right side up. I'm going to grab my zero 02 micron pen. So this is a really fine point. And I'm going to draw a face with a couple of eyebrows and a neck. Of course, that's not very visible on camera, but um, there's my bad drawing of the pastor, the shepherd, which is the 29th mansion of the moon. And again, the 29th mansion is not a real mansion, right? Because it's 0 through 28 and then or it's 1 through 28 and then they repeat. But I now have this little thing that I can keep for myself and work by suffumigating it in a column of incense, or I can um, play around with this and consecrate this, and it's easily stored. And when the time comes, it can be easily burned. And there's another beautiful thing about it, which is that when I pop it open like this, there's space for me to put a little bit of herb or a little bit of um, resin from an incense stick or ash from the incense, something that represents the talisman itself or another way of representing this particular force, right? So it can, under the right circumstances, act as a kind of pocket. And I think that can be very helpful. If somebody is having issues, and then you can simply put a little bit of sealing wax there and stamp it, or you can put a sticker on that to sort of seal and complete your work. Um, you can even tie a piece of string around it. So there's an idea about how to make a paper talisman of a mansion of the moon. And if people are interested, I will start posting those times online in the Discord. Thanks for watching. Now, I should add that I'm very thankful to my Patreon members, particularly those at the $10 and $7 tiers who provide the bulk of my income from astrology these days. And I appreciate the fact that you're here and available. And uh, whatever I can do to make your lives more magical, I'm happy to assist and guide you through that process. Have a great day.